many people, even progressive people, think that before the Europeans set foot in Africa, there was nothing there. We were swinging on trees. And a lot of the film and literature and movies and series have only contributed to that perception. So what we've done is we try to break down some of these myths. So that's what we do when we focus on the history. We don't just talk about the European did this, the European did it. We actually talk about the kingdoms that we have. The kingdom of Kush that we have in Sudan. We have King Tahaka, who's referenced in the Bible. You know, Kingdom of Kush had irrigation systems that influenced the Greeks and the Romans. So we try to also explain the positive stories about Africa. And actually, we have the solutions within our own history.
This is the journey to one Africa.
Kaballo, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, first of all, tell us more about yourself and more about the line of the work you do.
Sure. So I'm a journalist. I've been a journalist for about 10 years now. I actually made my bones working for Press TV. I covered many different regions of the world for Press TV, and they basically gave me my wings so that I could fly. So I went to Nicaragua, did a documentary there, did 2 from Venezuela, 2 from Sudan. I went to Iraq and did some filming and reports there, as well as many reports from places like Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, all over Europe.
How was this experience?
It was great. It was great. You know, when you travel somewhere on holiday and you stay in a little holiday resort, you're limited to that holiday resort experience. You speak to other people, maybe from the same country as you, but when you go out and go there via work, then you really speak to real people and get a real feeling what it's like on the ground there.
And so how do you manage life as a journalist, you know, balancing work and your personal life?
Yeah, it's challenging. This trip to Iran, and I went to Eritrea recently. I now have a small boy. My small boy doesn't understand when I'm going away. So my wife tells me he goes to find me around the house. He's going to all the different rooms. So that's obviously challenging. Before.
How old is he?
He's 20 months. He's 20 months, yeah. So she sent me a video of him holding my passport photo, saying Baba, which is, you know, makes me miss him a lot more. So it's a lot more difficult now. I've got a child, sorry. But it's also very rewarding. You know, when I meet an Iranian now outside the country, I can say, I've been to your country. I've been to Tehran. I went to the Aerospace Museum, took some pictures there. I went to the cinema and saw a film about Rumi, So it really helps to break barriers. You know, the amount of people I meet from Iraq in the UK, and I tell them I've been to Iraq, and they're second generation Iraqi and never been. So it really, you know, helps break barriers and helps to bring you together with different communities when you've visited different places in the world.
Yeah, it does. And it's interesting, I've talked to different journalists about how they balance their life before, you know, starting a family and, you know, doing journalism after the family. You know, it's really challenging, yeah.
It really is, yeah, it really is. I think when he gets older, when he's about 7, 6, I can explain.
Yeah.
Going for a week, I'll be back in a week. I'm going to bring you a nice big toy from Iran or Eritrea. But at the moment, there's not that. I can't explain it. And I think that's where the difficulty lies.
Indeed, yeah. Well, you're the CEO and founder of a social media-based news network called African Stream, which, as its name indicates, focuses on all things Africa. How much has this channel been able to educate the people of the world about what's happening in the African continent?
Yeah, I mean, greatly, and you can see that by the growth. In a very short period of time, we've accumulated over 730,000 followers on Instagram, over 800,000 followers on TikTok, and that's because I feel Africa as a continent is probably the most misunderstood continent in the world. Many people, even progressive people, think that before the Europeans set foot in Africa, there was nothing there. We were swinging on trees. And a lot of the film and literature and movies and series have only contributed to that perception. So what we've done is we try to break down some of these myths. So that's what we do when we focus on the history. We don't just talk about the European did this, the European did it. We actually talk about the kingdoms that we have. The kingdom of Kush that we have in Sudan. We have King Tahaka, who's referenced in the Bible. You know, Kingdom of Kush had irrigation systems that influenced the Greeks and the Romans. So we try to also explain the positive stories about Africa, and actually we have the solutions within our own history for our future development. But also, you know, Africa's covered a lot by the mainstream media. I just think it's covered very badly. They tell a story and completely decontextualize it. So the person that doesn't know the nuances will be left with a certain perception. An example of that would be the Niger coup. So there was a coup that happened in Niger. The way the Western mainstream media covered it was military men have just taken power. We had somebody on the ground in Niamey, spoke to people. People were filling up stadiums. There were people lining up the streets of Niamey supporting this coup. The reason is because they recognize that since its independence, Niger has been a neo-colonial relationship with France. It was at the time of the coup, the second poorest country in the world. According to the World Bank, it's expected to grow by 12.8% this year. So that just shows that actually when you decolonize and you take the resources that lie beneath the ground back into the hands of the masses, you can see real development. And we just tried to provide some of that context and explain why there were people out in the streets of Niamey supporting this coup.
How much competition do you have, you know, when it comes to media? You know, African Stream, you have your own